Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Go to Bowl Fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, we're finally at that point of the year where, man, it's good to have Chargers football back. Whatever your opinion is on preseason and your emotions is about how we, handled that last game versus Seattle, I'm just so grateful Chargers football is back. I would rather be, a little bit butthurt with the preseason loss and a little bit worried, about what the roster's looking like than not having Chargers football at all. But one thing that really does get me especially excited for this season in particular is another big move that the Chargers made at GM and what that could mean, man. We got a new GM in Joe Ortiz. Of course, a lot of us excited about his addition to the team and what he could potentially mean for the future of the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. But one big thing I think a lot of us are anticipating, as we kind of saw a preview of this last preseason free agency period, is what he's going to be doing in terms of signings. Joe Ortiz is a new thing for Chargers fan, okay? We don't know what his process is going to look like. We don't know what kind of money is going to be spent. We don't know what free agent acquisitions are going to look like even in season. This is all uncharted territory for Chargers fans, and it does open up the door for some possibilities, some of which the Chargers have already been exercising, man. We've been out here making some moves, dude. Not going to lie. Kind of weird as a Chargers fan to see so many announcements of roster moves here in the deep in the preseason so far. I should say into training camp so far, man. And we're going to be going over all the Chargers signings so far, as well as what I think the Chargers are going to be doing, or at least could be considering in terms of more free agency signings to further strengthen the roster before kickoff. And I got to tell you, we got the money to do so. We're already showing signs of being more aggressive. It could be a sign of good things to come. And I got to tell you, man, I know you guys have probably seen the news by now. Tyler Tart is being rumored to be signed by the Chargers. He's out there working out. I think maybe even right now, man. So excited to hear that news. We're going to break down all of that here in just a minute. Now, before we do kick things off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Newcomers, take advantage of the Caitlin Clark special on screen, as well as this tiny announcement here for my crew members. I'll go ahead and take this off for just a second. If you guys want a chance to play against me in a fantasy football league, I'm going to be dropping a link tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific for the first of a couple of fantasy football leagues that I'm hosting on Underdog Fantasy. So if you guys want a chance to jump in and compete against yours truly, now is the time to do so. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
The Chargers are out here making moves, dude. I don't know about you, but this is exciting stuff. Now, I'm not expecting the world of Joe Ortiz in his first season. Of course, we had a lot of money problems to have to navigate at the top of the year, of course, created by the previous regime and coaching. It's definitely a deep hole that he had to dig himself out of. But you know what? They figured it out. Of course, it came with a bit of sacrifice. Chargers fans were gutted to hear that Keenan Allen had been moved on from, Mike Williams, a lot of these big contracts. But that did open up some room for some moves for Joe Ortiz to begin laying the foundations of what the Chargers team will look like in the future. Because I got to tell you guys right now, with the moves that the Chargers made and freeing up money, again, big contracts like Keenan, etc., we're set up pretty well for the future. Chargers in 2025 and beyond look awesome. And not just that, but we do have some money to spend this season too if we choose to do so. Now, the Chargers have already been exercising some of that money and some of these moves to try and further strengthen the roster. A big thing that you're going to hear around here, and especially around Chargers camp, I have to imagine, is competitors are welcome. Competition is welcome. These are guys that Chargers need to find a home for in terms of the best guy, even in depth positions, right? We got Shaquille Quarterman, who was just signed by the Chargers. He's a great veteran ad, right? He's been around the league a little while, going through a couple of different teams, most recently the Philadelphia Eagles. He's definitely not a bad ad here for the Chargers, who are definitely trying to attempt to bolster that linebacker position just a little bit. Shaquille Quarterman is a good signing there. We also were taking a look at USL, I should say former USFL Defensive Player of the Year in Frank Ginda. I think he's working. I don't think we've quite signed him yet, but that's definitely something the Chargers are looking into a lot more this season. The minor leagues, or whatever you want to call them for the NFL, we're taking a look at some of the best of the best. We went out and we signed Luis Perez, who's getting a lot of hype from Chargers fans, who could certainly add to that hype this weekend in our game versus the Rams. But there's other players all over the USFL and other minor leagues, the XFL, the UFL now, that could definitely contribute. Donald Parham, I believe, was a product of a minor league signing, and it's something that the Chargers are not shy, at least at poking around and seeing what we got out there in those players. Another signing that we just made was Isaiah Wooden out of Southern Utah. Definitely a guy that adds a little bit of flavor to the competition, supposedly, I guess, in wide receiver. I do think the Chargers have a pretty cut and dry choice between, who's going to be making wide receiver 5 or 6, depending on how many they roster. But definitely, again, competitors welcome at this point. And finally, just today, like you saw at the top of the show, we did sign a huge tight end in Tucker Fisk. Now, when I say huge, I mean physically big, massive kind of guy. I think he's like 250, 260 pounds. He's 6'4". This feels like a great blocking upside tight end. I couldn't tell you much about him. Played a little bit for the Falcons. I think he was out of Stanford, but definitely not a bad idea when we had something like this last week happen where Hayden Hurst is hobbled a little bit. Maybe you're adding a little bit more flavor to your running or run blocking tight ends in that room. Chargers are still out here shuffling cards around, okay? And those are really good things to see and really good signs for Chargers fans that want to see more moves happen. There's going to be a point this upcoming season around November, right, where the trade deadline's coming up. Teams are pressured to add. They're trying to figure out where they are in the season. If the Chargers have a winning record by that time, which honestly, with the way the schedule's laid out, it could definitely be in the cards. It could definitely be a possibility, then there is a possibility the Chargers do make some moves around that time. Trade for a couple of guys at weak points. Maybe some injuries derailed some positions from strengths to weaknesses. That could definitely be something we see this year, because everything is on the table now that Joe Ortiz is the GM of the Chargers. We don't know what his style is going to look like. We don't know what his priorities are going to look like. We don't know how he's going to be handling it. We do know that he's going to be trying to create a compensatory pick formula for the Chargers going forward. But outside of that, we really don't know much about him. And that's the exciting part, the unknown. The Chargers have a couple of different opportunities to make this roster better even right now. And so far, they've been doing a good job at taking advantage of that. Now, the big rumor, I should not even say rumor, the big announcement, the big news that just dropped today was one revolving around an awesome defensive tackle that I'm quite shocked has been making his rounds in the NFL so early, but one that's already working out with the Chargers. It's already been announced on Twitter. That's Tyre Tart, man. This dude working out with the Chargers is a really good sign if you're a Bolts fan. You guys know this dude? Tyre Tart, formerly of the Tennessee Titans, formerly of, I think he was with the Houston Texans a little bit, and then most recently, the Miami Dolphins. Tart's awesome, man. And this is something that if you're a Chargers fan, you needed to hear something like this. We needed to see something move the needle in terms of the Chargers' defensive line play, right? You got Poona Ford in there, very decent versus the run. You got Tito Agbonya in there, who could definitely be a next step-up kind of guy this year in terms of run defense. Then you got guys like Morgan Fox, et cetera, that can help you in pass rushing. You want a guy, a true nose tackle, to come in here and really help out the Bolts in a couple of different areas that they do need help. One being run defense. Tart definitely no slouch there. He's certainly a more than capable run defender in terms of a nose tackle, but also a guy that can generate some pressure from the interior. This is something that I love to see. You line up Tart next to Morgan Fox. You kick in, I don't know, Bud Dupree or Tooley, and you got Bosa and Mack on each end. I really am starting to feel very good about the Chargers' defensive line, where in years past it's been a little bit sketchy. And right now I think the middle of the line is still something that does need a lot of attention. The Chargers' defense this last week and then the entirety of preseason and training camp have actually looked really good. Right? We as fans are shocked to see how well the defensive backs are playing. The edge is obviously producing at a super high level, but maybe the interior of that defensive line needed a little bit of help. This is exactly the kind of guy you sign, not just to get your fans hyped, but to get that position down pat. Man, Tyre Tart is a monster, and it's something that I would 100% endorse for this team. He is a beast. more about Thierry Tart. He's only 27 years old. He's 6'2", 304 pounds via Wikipedia or whatever. This is a great nose tackle. He's great at generating pressure, like I mentioned before. He eats up blocks. Great dude to line up next to, again, Morgan Fox. And a guy with that kind of size and that kind of impact in the middle is also going to help complement the guys that you're trying to really work into the system as the featured position on the defense in Morgan Fox, those interior edge rushers, as well as the actual edge rushers in Bosa and Mack. All of that really does converge, kind of from the middle out a little bit sometimes. And having that Thierry Tart in the middle of that line would be a huge, huge benefit to the Chargers' plans in unleashing that kind of heat. And Thierry Tart himself is a pretty decent rusher as well. Of course, his stats aren't going to print the full picture, right? He's only got two or three sacks in his career so far. Again, he's still generally pretty young, but it's more about his impact on the line as a whole. You guys remember what he was doing back with, again, I'm going to say his best days with the Tennessee Titans, lining up with Jeffrey Simmons, right? One of the best in the NFL. Bud Dupree, his former teammate, who is now a Charger, was also on that squad. Definitely a very formidable defense back then. This is only a couple years ago, 2022, and definitely one of the best seasons of his career that I think the Chargers can definitely, bring back to life here a little bit. I feel like Tart is exactly the kind of prospect that you want to bring in to help you with a big need at a position that needs somebody with that kind of upside and that kind of familiarity as well. Getting to work with Bud with a group of Chargers that does help elevate him as well is a really good situation for Tart. I don't know if I can say the same about where he was the previous two teams. I mean, the Dolphins have some pretty good rushers, right? They got themselves Bradley Chubb. I know Van Ginkel was really good that season as a backup as well. They're pretty capable. Then you had the Houston Texans, who had a couple of good pieces. Was it last year or the year before? They're okay, but they're no Chargers, man. This is definitely the best situation since the Texans that Thierry Tart has been in terms of, potential team. And it makes me feel pretty excited about the prospect, or at least the idea of him actually signing. This isn't, a floater, guys. This isn't we're going to try him out, we're going to see what happens. I think this is something that the Chargers do not plan on letting him leave without a contract sort of situation, because if he does work out and he does fit and he does, appease to what the coaches are looking for, especially on a personality standpoint, I think the Chargers could get themselves a massive slam dunk solution to what they've been looking for at defensive tackle for a few years now. This kind of feels a little bit like the Linval Joseph sign. You guys remember that a few years back? We're all kind of like, woohoo, this is a pretty great defensive tackle coming out of Minnesota. And then it turns out, or was it the Giants? I don't remember. And then it turns out that Linval was actually a very solid addition to the team for at least a couple of seasons, right? He wasn't this huge, massive, impact tackle on the line, but he was more than capable and really helped keep us afloat at least a few years. It could have been a lot worse without Linval Joseph. I would say that Thierry Tart does give me some of that impact. Now, a big reason why I'm a little bit hesitant about this signing, I would say the only reason I would be even a little bit hesitant, is because of the reason why this would be his fourth team now. I don't even remember. It's been a while since he was on the Titans, but not that long, right? 2022. Just a few seasons ago, and now he's already worked through the Texans, the Dolphins, and now the Chargers. Why was he let go from Miami? When I started looking up, some storylines on Thierry, I ran across a lot of articles and videos of Dolphins fans excited about the signing 3 or 4 months ago. And it got me asking what happened in Miami. Well, upon further research, it feels like there was a personality thing that the Dolphins didn't like. They said it was a lack of effort, which does get me a little bit concerned. Work ethic is a big, big part of the Jim Harbaugh way, and it's something that would have to be nipped in the bud right away. And if anybody can do it, though, it's Jim Harbaugh. Because something that I've been saying a lot this offseason has been the term last chance Chargers. You guys know that last chance you, when they send players in the collegiate level that maybe have a bit of personality quirks, or they have some history, some checkered pasts or checkered presence, and they're trying to get them right, and they have a lot of potential to bounce back. The Chargers kind of feel that way in a couple of different arenas, right? You got guys that maybe didn't have the best start to their career. like Christian Fulton, who's having an awesome bounce back, at least a start to a bounce back season with the Chargers. Or maybe you got a guy like Alex Leatherwood, who was a high draft prospect that really didn't work out, that did get another shot with the Chargers, which at this point doesn't feel like it's working out. But hey, I mean, it was kind of worth a shot, right? You see that in a couple of different instances all over the roster. And I do think Taylor Tart is not a bad idea for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers to take a stab at, because it's a position that we will need the talent. The Chargers coaching staff is more than capable of reigniting whatever it was that made him so special with the Tennessee Titans. And again, if it's a stab in the dark kind of contract, if it's a guy that really can add to the position, I'd say let's give it a go. It's not the Chargers of the past, man. That's another thing that I keep trying to drill even into my own brain, is that in the past you hear a story like that and you think, man, maybe not what the Chargers are looking for. But nowadays, I mean, it could be the beginnings of a comeback story, and we're seeing it kind of unfold all over the roster at various different positions, and some to success, some to failure. But, you know, the success in Christian Fulton's going to be felt in season. Maybe if Alex Leatherwood, which I'm predicting at this point, doesn't work out, then at worst, he's a roster cut, and we gave it a good go. Okay, so Taylor Tart, to me, if you guys ask me, should we be signing him? Is he a wise decision for the Chargers at this point? You know, in preseason, absolutely. I 100% endorse it. Again, the character concerns are something that I will have to feel a little bit better about, and I would hope the Chargers feel confident in correcting in his visit in LA. But outside of that, I love his play. I love his impact. I love his situation playing next to our already really good players, you know, in Fox and Bud and Tuli Bosa-Mack. Like, it would be a very good situation for Tart to return to his former glory and what he built in Tennessee. So very excited about the idea of Taylor Tart, and I hope it's one that the Chargers don't let him out of the building without a contract. Now, this opened up, again, another idea in my mind where, hey, if we're bringing in Taylor Tart, which the Chargers, again, this man was just, I think, released yesterday. This is the first team that he's visiting with. They're wasting no time. It's very obvious they want Taylor Tart on the roster. Exciting to think about that signing. But it got me thinking about even more signings. You know, what if the Chargers were to go after other positions? Again, we have the money right now. We're starting to understand the roster a little bit better. We don't know if Joe Ortiz is going to continue or be more conservative. If he were to continue in his signings, though, there's a few other players that I think the Chargers would be very wise to look at. Now, the first player we'll kind of talk about is Colin Kaepernick, because there has been a lot of talk about him returning to the NFL, and more particularly the Chargers. If you guys missed it, Jim Harbaugh, I think it was on even USA Today, one of the articles out there, don't quote me on that, was talking about Kaepernick coming back to the NFL. And Harbaugh actually went about it this way. He said, hey, man, he's a smart dude. If he wants to come back, maybe with a coaching position or a staff position with the Chargers, they would be open to it. And I think that was a very smart way to go about it, because all politics aside, okay, just purely from a football standpoint, Kaepernick, as amazing of a talent as he was in Harbaugh's time with the 49ers, it has been a long time, dude. It has been too long, at least for me. And there's other guys out there that I would consider signing well ahead Colin Kaepernick at this point. Again, purely from a football standpoint, if you just want a guy to come in there and compete for QB2 and give you, peace of mind in your backup position, Kaepernick is not really on the list for me. There is a guy on the list, however, in Brian Tannehill, that I think if the Chargers right now, whose quarterback situation does not look good past Justin Herbert, they want to feel some confidence, I think Ryan Tannehill is definitely the guy I want to be looked at right now, dude. If we were to make this signing tomorrow and he goes in and plays his first preseason game versus the Rams, I'd be like, let's go. I feel so much better about who's backing up Big Ten. Okay? Now, Tannehill, of course, definitely not, again, the Tannehill of his former glory with the Miami Dolphins and most recently the Tennessee Titans. He was actually probably better with the Titans in times, right? This guy is definitely more than capable of being a backup. You're talking about a Chargers team right now who's looking at Easton Stick, who had a pretty terrible outing in preseason, a bit of a lackluster opportunity in playing in Justin Herbert's absence last season. Kind of lost the confidence of Chargers fans over that time. You got Max Duggan, late round pick, TCU quarterback, that again hasn't instilled a lot of confidence in the fans, maybe not even in the building out there. We just released Bauman. We did sign Luis Perez, who granted looks awesome, could definitely end up being quarterback 2 this season. I don't think I would be too upset about that, but he is 29 years old, right? How much experience he has in the league is definitely up to question. How he would look in the long term, I don't know. I wouldn't be terribly mad at that. I think I would rather actually go in that direction out of all the quarterbacks on the roster right now, but it's still early, right? But if it were to be up to me and I could make the roster moves and it wouldn't be a terrible hit against the cap, I think I am signing Ryan Tannehill. Right, Justin Herbert dinged up a little bit. I think, again, knock on wood, but I do believe he'll be okay throughout the season. He's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in terms of that plantar fasciitis or whatever, right? It's going to be a little sore in that foot, so maybe limits his mobility a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be a determining factor in him missing a majority of games this year. I don't think that would end up causing it. However, it is there. It's something you want to plan for, and if you want a capable quarterback too, I think the best on the market right now is Ryan Tannehill. And if you want a guy around that talent, I think you have to trade for him if it's not Ryan Tannehill. And Tannehill gives us the opportunity to do that in free agency and not have to go in terms of draft compensation for any sort of trade. So anyway, Ryan Tannehill's my guy. Colin Kaepernick is not. If there was any other quarterback I'd be looking at even in trade, Henley maybe, I don't know, but Ryan Tannehill is certainly going to be the name on top of the list for me. Another guy I think deserves kind of a look. I'm not going to say a signing, but maybe a look from the Chargers is going to be Hunter Renfrow. Now, the reason I'm kind of lower on my priorities, Hunter Renfrow, right now is because I do like what the competition looks like at wide receiver right now. I think, again, we got a really, really good freaking rookie, coming in to take wide receiver one, right? Ladd McConkey could definitely end up being the next big thing in the NFL. So I feel pretty confident in him. Josh Palmer is pretty good. Outside of that, though, it's kind of up in the air. I still feel pretty good about DJ Chark. He looks good at times. Quentin Johnston, we'll have to wait and see, but he's, again, looks good at times. Brendan Rice is probably the other guy I have a lot of hype on right now. I got to see him in person a lot, and he looks absolutely fantastic. But if you want to alleviate some of those question marks, Hunter Renfrow, I mean, as Chargers fans, we know. I hate to say it, but, the dude's good. The dude's been very good. And he provides a little bit of that Keenan-esque talent, Keenan-esque services in terms of availability, route running, converter. I don't know. I would say at this point it's worth a shot. It's worth a workout at very minimum, right? What happened to Hunter Renfrow? Why isn't he on a roster right now? He was lighting up the league for several years, and all of a sudden he's just gone. I wouldn't mind bringing him in for a workout at this point. Just see if we need another competitor out there, another guy that could be a converter for Justin Herbert if he needs more resources there. Okay, but again, kind of low on my priority list, but a guy I think worth a shot, worth a look at least. A guy, though, that I'd be very interested in. If the Chargers, if it was posted on their Twitter tomorrow, hey, we're bringing this guy in for a workout, I'd be very excited. I'd be very high because at this point, man, I think we need it. Give me a Mason Cole tryout. You guys know who this is? This is your center from the Pittsburgh Steelers last couple of seasons now. Former Michigan alumni, right? He was coached by Jim Harbaugh back in the day, and he's actually not a bad run-blocking center. Okay, the Chargers center position right now, I would say, is not too shabby. Bradley Bozeman has the opportunity to come in and be a starter for this team and make an impact. And I do believe that his potential there is very real. We've seen some good things in preseason and in training camp. We've heard some good things from the coaching staff. Would like to see more of it, right, in preseason games. But, outside of that, I'm not too worried about Bradley Bozeman. I am a little bit worried about backup center, though. Is it Brendan Hymus right now? I think Hymus was the one that I saw this last preseason game really whiff on some run blocking assignments, really whiff in his protection. It just it made me a little bit nervous about the backup position all of a sudden. As a matter of fact, the Chargers' backup offensive line as a whole didn't instill a lot of confidence in me. And at this point, I am thinking we need a little bit more competition. And not only would Mason Cole be a great signing for competition at backup, but I think he's more than capable to give Bradley Bozeman a little bit of a shove, too. I'm not saying Bozeman and Mason are on the same level. I definitely think Bozeman is the more talented center. But, I mean, just, a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a push in the right direction for both centers. And I do very much so think Mason Cole would be a much more capable backup at center than Brendan Hymus at this point. And at this point, just because, we have felt pretty good about the starters doesn't mean I don't think we're done at making signings on offensive line. Again, the backups got me a little bit worried. And at this point, I think, you still have some time to integrate these guys in. You still have some time to make some adjustments, but I do want to add a little bit more competition, because if what we saw on Saturday is any, indication of the future, the backups need a lot more work than we thought. And so to bring in more competition is probably not a bad idea. There's another guy in terms of offensive line that I would love to bring in Charles Leno Jr. There's actually another guy that I like a little bit more in DJ Humphries, but he's recovering from an ACL, which I think he'll be ready to play by week 1. But we don't know for certain. Leno is another good option in terms of pass pro. And this is my answer, at least one of them, to a swing tackle. Now, we do maybe have a better swing tackle in Jamari Sawyer on the roster. Maybe the Chargers view him in that way because Sawyer was an awesome, tackle in the absence of Rashawn Slater that season. But right now, Foster Sarell, man, he was another one of those guys that I was just like, dude, we got to figure it out. Alex Leatherwood was another one of those guys where I was like, dude, you're probably going to get cut soon, right? Like, the cuts are coming. I think Alex Leatherwood's name is near the top of the list right now. I need a little bit more confidence from the swing and from these backups. And a signing like Charles Leno Jr. or DJ Humphries will go a long way in bringing me a little bit of relief. Because right now, I don't feel especially confident in the backups outside of Jamari Sawyer, who is likely playing backup to Trey Pipkins at guard this year. But who knows? Mason Cole, Humphries, Leno, one of these guys would be an excellent addition to the Chargers' competition at depth offensive line. All right? Finally, a guy that we have been pushing a lot. I won't spend too much time on Stephon Gilmore. I've made a ton of videos on Chargers free agency and what I think what the signing should look like. And to me, I don't think there's one any more obvious than Stephon Gilmore. The Chargers DBs actually look really good right now. I'm not going to lie. So maybe this is less of a pressing need than it has been in the past. But I still think the Chargers would benefit greatly from signing another cornerback 1 to this team, right? I feel really good about Christian Fulton, right? You can move, Asante around in the slot, maybe Christian in the slot a little bit. But whatever the case may be, I think Stephon Gilmore's talent, and at this point, the price point, which is definitely not going to look too bad, is worth a stab at this point. I would be very excited if the Chargers signed Stephon Gilmore. I think he's worth it, and I think the Chargers would benefit greatly from bolstering that position a little bit more. And then finally, this is a name that I'm very shocked to see on this list. I've not mentioned him once this offseason. I've not talked about wanting him on the team. I don't think I've really wanted him on the team prior to some of the news that we are now learning of the Chargers and their acquisitions, okay? The guy I'm about to list, and again, maybe some of you guys are hyped about this, maybe some of you think it's ridiculous. I think the Chargers should at least bring in for a workout Shaquille Leonard, former Colts superstar linebacker. You guys remember this dude? I remember being really pissed at this dude, Derwin James's rookie season. Shaquille Leonard went out there. I don't remember what his name was at the time, right? Shaq Leonard now. Yeah, I don't remember. He went out there and he won Defensive Rookie of the Year that season, even though Derwin James had an awesome, awesome year. Well, a couple years down the road, Shaquille Leonard earned himself, I think it was 3 years in a row, right? First team All-Pro. Very, very decorated linebacker. Then all of a sudden, he just kind of fell off a cliff. And it was so rapid. What happened to Shaq Leonard? Y'all, I know there was a concussion or an injury or something that maybe he never shook off fully. But the Colts, it feels like they gave up on him so quickly. They gave him a big contract, yeah, and he wasn't performing up to par, but this dude was the next big name at linebacker in the NFL. And he disappeared. Now, again, this is not a name that I would normally entertain. This is not a name that I would normally bring up because it wasn't something that I was confident that the Chargers would get anything out of him, right? I was like, there's obviously a reason. There's obviously a reason that the Colts moved on. I don't know if I want to be part of any of that drama or mess. But now that the Chargers are taking shots, right? Christian Fulton, Alex Leatherwood, now Tierra Tart, a lot of USFL guys. Let me see some Shaq Leonard. Let me see some Shaq Leonard at the Bolt. Let's give him a workout. Let's see what's going on, man. Because this dude, if he could return to 50% of what he was with the Colts, you got yourself a more than capable linebacker out there. And the Chargers, who are kind of going out there poking and prodding the position with, Shaq Quarterman and Frank Ginda, like Shaquille Leonard, you could do a lot worse in terms of a tryout, in my opinion. Are we really the last chance Chargers? Is that the kind of philosophies that we're starting to unroll? Maybe it is. Guys like this, who I don't think Shaq Leonard's all that old either. He's got to be, what, like 27? Maybe 28 at the oldest at this point? and around the same age as Derwin. The potential, right? The upside could be massive. And again, this is not something I would really entertain in the past, but now that we're operating the way that we are, I say, why not? Let's give it a shot. Last chance Chargers. Let's go. So there you have it, man. Joe Ortiz out here making moves. Chargers looking like a different team in terms of roster construction and free agents acquisitions, and even the draft felt a little bit different this year in a very good way. It really felt like BPA for the first time in a while, right? Who knows what his moves are going to look like, what the team's going to look like, but I would say if I had to guess, if I had to give an educated guess to what the Chargers moves actually are going to be, I think the Chargers are going to sign Teair Tart. I really do. I think in the next 28 or 24 to 48 hours, we're going to see a Chargers announcement that we have signed Teair Tart to the roster. Okay, and I think he's going to be very good with this team. I'll plant my flag on there. I think the Chargers definitely could be on the lookout for some depth at offensive line. I would say that's probably another thing that the Chargers do make a move on that I feel pretty confident in. Outside of that, I would feel very good about a backup quarterback. I would feel very good, about another project, maybe like Dean Leonard. I definitely feel very good about a signing like Stephon Gilmore. But at the very, very minimum, I think the Chargers should definitely be looking at moves like what we're rumored to be happening now, and guys like Teair Tart. I feel like defensive line was a big need. This is a really big opportunity to bring in a guy that wasn't available, just 2 days ago. Let's make it happen. And it's the kind of thing that I like seeing from our new GM. Opportunities arisen. Pounce, pounce, pounce. Charge, baby, charge. Let's go get him. Well, guys, if you enjoyed what you saw here today, please hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and let's get Tart a contract right away, man. I need this man in powder blue.